Hey, hello there. Welcome to Talking with Tony. And today we're continuing on with our football picks. We welcome Fred Blatchford, our newest member of the panel, but he's no new member to Talking with Tony. In fact, we call him the chief correspondent for not only football, but also for golf. And he's also our senior correspondent. But around these parts also, we've often referred to as the world's most interesting man. And Fred, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And instead of Tampa, Florida, you're actually in Tyrone, Georgia today joining us.
I am. I'm working my way towards Auburn for homecoming this weekend.
There you go. Always a great place to be back in God's country for a homecoming game. Let's pick some winners.
Okay.
And we'll have some exciting news in a little bit. We'll sprinkle in. Let's start with college. Clemson and Georgia Tech, a big battle, very close to where you're at right now in the ACC. Longtime rivals that have been playing each other. There's been some memorable games. Georgia Tech is certainly a team that has got some attention this year after
Mm.
they closed the year in the manner they did. They should have beat Georgia last year. You know, they had some nice wins. Clemson is still trying to find themselves. Clemson's favored by 4, the game's in Atlanta. How do you see it?
Well, when I first looked at that one, I was because Tech is better, playing
Mhm.
better. I think they've righted the ship this year. Clemson, boy, I tell you what, the wagons are circling, and if Clemson were to go to Georgia Tech and lose that game, boy, I wouldn't want to be in Greenville, South Carolina for the next couple of weeks. I think Clemson's gonna play better than they have, and I think they handle that game. But
They
it is
trailed
at Tech,
twice
and Tech is better, and it's only 4 points. But I think they cover. I think Clemson wins, and I think they cover the four.
they trailed Troy 16-3 at the
I
half, but they
know.
really came out strong in the second half. So they may carry some of that of what they were able to do in the second half
Yeah.
with them. Uh, Georgia and Tennessee, I believe this is where game day is going to be in
Was
Knoxville.
it okay?
Georgia's favored by 5. The panel is split. Danny and Stormy both have Tennessee. Now, that's no surprise on Stormy because he hates Georgia, so he's going with Tennessee. Danny, I was a little alarmed that he took the balls. Uh, yeah, I don't know what to think
Mhm.
about this game. Actually, I'm glad I'm not picking it. But the Bulldogs are favored by 5.
Yeah, I mean it's another one. I think if you called me up on Sunday and said Tennessee won, I wouldn't be surprised. If you called me up and said Georgia won, I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I just think that Georgia's kind of got a little bit of Tennessee's number. I think from top to bottom, Georgia's a better team. They should win that game. I think if they played, 10 times, Georgia would probably win 6 or 7 of the 10. That doesn't mean that Tennessee can't win. I just think Georgia's just a little bit deeper.
I do want to point out one thing. John leads the panel. He's 13-9 this year. You're doing very well. You're 11-11. His 5-star is Georgia Tech. So I found that interesting that he's got Georgia
Mm.
Tech plus 4. You taking Georgia there. You break the tie there. The rest of the panel is 2-2. So you think Georgia's just a little bit stronger, and like Kirby can prepare a football team as well.
Yep.
Southern Cal is 21-point favorites at Purdue. I will tell you this, the other 4 members of the panel have split. There's 2 that have gone with Purdue and 2 that have gone with, I still call them Southern Cal. They like to be called, or they're calling themselves USC, but to me, that's the Trojans, is
True.
Southern Cal. Purdue is a team that, Fred, last couple of years has just been miserable for the folks there in West Lafayette, Indiana. And they had a core group of about 3 or 4 guys that have been with them the last 2 years that are absolute studs. One's the tight end who's now at Ohio State. The point is, they transferred. They got out of there their final year, went somewhere a little more
Yeah.
NIL money. There's a new coaching staff in here. Barry Odom, he's been a successful coach in the past. He seems to be bringing
Hmm.
something with him. I don't know what that something is, but the attitude's a little bit different. And they don't have expectations. I mean, they're thinking maybe they can win 3, 4 football games. This is a big time opponent. It's Big Ten football,
Hmm.
if you will. But Southern Cal is favored by 21, and they still have the Trojans, even though they lost some transfers themselves, including Branch to Georgia, the outstanding wide receiver, and Moss, the quarterback, to Louisville. They still have a ton of offensive weapons, and that's why they're favored by 21. So I'll let you break the tie
Yeah.
there of the other 4 that has 2.
I
How,
do
how do you,
think
how do you
I do think Purdue's turned the corner. I do think he's changing the culture there, changing the culture. You just can't do it that fast. I don't think they have enough weapons. It might be close early on. They may hang around, but I think by the end of that game, Southern Cal beats them. 21 points, that's a lot. I've never been a big fan of taking or giving a lot of points. Even last weekend against Auburn, the 43 and a half points, that's just a lot of points. But I do think that Southern Cal will cover that.
Okay. My first pick is in the next game. It's at the Shoe in Columbus, your favorite spot. That is sarcasm on my behalf. Fred lived in Ohio. He does not care for the Buckeyes. I've never lived in Ohio and absolutely love them. Ohio is like my third or fourth favorite state. However, they are favored by 32 over the Bobcats. The Buckeyes are. And I'm going to go with Ohio plus 32. And the reason I'm going to do is a lot of these kids that play for Ohio, that be in those green and white uniforms there Saturday, they grew up wanting to play at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
They will certainly be motivated. I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to win the game, but I think they will give it everything they have, just like they did Saturday when they faced West Virginia. West Virginia actually played at Ohio. It was really cool. They're not far from each
Yeah.
other. They need to play every year. That'd be, great thing if they played every year. Ohio found a way to win that game, and I think they're going to represent themselves, pretty well. And that could still be losing by 20 something points, representing themselves. But I think the motivation. So, Fred, I'm going with Ohio plus 32. Danny is the only other person on the panel that agreed with me. The rest, just like yourself, are going to go with Ohio State. Stormy's 5-star is Ohio State minus 32. Your decision to take the Buckeyes there.
Yeah, I think they will cover it. The thing when you start talking about that many points, last week Auburn giving 43 and a half points and stuff like that, when you're playing a clearly undermanned opponent, you get a little bit of that situation where in the fourth quarter, the coaching staff, in this case Ohio State's coaching staff, starts to pull some of their stars off the field from a health standpoint. And then all of a sudden you get some cheap touchdown or the Ohio State offense picks up a couple of plays and scores a touchdown, stuff like that. But I still think 32 points. If it had been a little bit higher, I probably would have gone Ohio. But 32 felt a little bit better than 43 and a half. And I think Ohio State's a hell of a lot better than Auburn is. And we gave 43 to Ball State. Ohio State only giving up 32. I think they'll cover that.
The next game is Texas A&M and Notre Dame, and also in prime time. And Notre Dame is favored by 6.5. And I must tell you that I thought Notre Dame and Miami of Florida both played at a real high level on that Sunday night game right before Labor Day. I was actually impressed with Notre Dame on the road in a loss.
Yep.
I think Marcus Freeman, former Buckeye player, I think he's got something there. Last year is just not a fluke getting in the national championship game. I see them competing for a national championship for years and years. And I'm not knocking A&M because they've got plenty of potential as well. And we've talked about all the oil money they have. They're going to be contenders as well. But I like Notre Dame in this situation at home, Fred. That's my second pick is Notre Dame minus 6.5. Are you with me?
I do too. I think Notre Dame is going to be one of the 3 or 4 teams that are competing at the end of the season for the national championship. And yeah, the Aggies have got a bunch of money, but they never seem to get the full ROI on all that money that they spend. I mean, they've had oil money for a long time. They had a bunch of money when what's his name was the coach there, and they never delivered. So they have a bunch of money. They got a bunch of good players on that team. They just don't ever seem to get everything out of what they put into it for some reason. And I just think going to Notre Dame with that team, Notre Dame as good as they are, I don't think they beat them. Was
it the Jackie Sherrill that you were referring to, or R.C. Sloak? Okay. Yeah.
Well, just all the way back even to what's his name? They paid $90 million to go away. The former Florida State coach.
Oh yeah, Jimbo. And Jimbo Fisher, at one point, didn't some guy named Bear coach at College Station as well? I think he later on coached at Kentucky and Maryland. Final college game, Boston College and Stanford. People might say, why, this doesn't look so appealing. Well, I wanted a real late game. This game starts at 10:30.
I got it.
Obviously, Anybody that's reading my books knows that Miles is a Stanford graduate, played baseball at Stanford. His politics don't agree with Stanford's politics at all. In fact, in this book, the university will oppose him in a couple of things. This upcoming book that'll be out next week. Boston College is favored by 10.5. What I do think, I'm going to go with Stanford, and nobody else on the panel is going to go, but I'm going to go with them because they try hard every game. I can give you a little tutorial on them. David Shaw didn't do name, image, and likeness the first year. He didn't want to have anything to do with that. They didn't take any transfer players for the first 2 years. Shaw didn't want to fool with NIL. He got out of there. He was a good football coach. Like it's sending a lot of coaches away. Now they're doing NIL. They've relaxed some of the transfer portal stuff. They took 17 transfers this year, which is more than like the previous 15 years put together. But them not getting involved with NIL those first 2 years, kind of like the Army, Navy, and Air Force, has set Stanford back, the
Yep.
teams that they compete, and they're playing catch up. They've hired Andrew Luck as a general manager now,
Yep.
and I do like their effort. Frank Reich is going to coach the team just this year as an interim coach. I think they can play within Boston. They can represent themselves really well and play hard. They played hard against Brigham Young. They just had nothing offensively all night against Brigham Young. But I think that Boston. That's a long way for Boston College to go for a
Yeah.
football game, and I
Yeah.
think that they can play within 10. So I'll take Stanford plus 10.5. I see that. Looking at your picks, first of all, so Kevin's 5 stars, Boston College, but you like the Eagles here in this situation.
I do. I think they looked pretty good. I thought Rodgers looked really well. I think the way the Seahawks finished that game the other day was shameful. How they kind of gave away a big lead and all that kind of stuff. 3 point and only giving 3 points at home. There's a lot of momentum. They've got a lot of weapons too. The Steelers do. I think they cover that easy.
Okay. So you were on the Steelers NFL game there with your pick on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you were on Boston College.
Yeah,
-10.5
and on the
points.
Boston College one in Stanford, you hit the nail on the head. I think Stanford has been adrift for the last couple of years. I think they are righting the ship. I think hiring Andrew Luck and having a general manager and starting to understand that you may not like the rules and the NIL and the portals, situation, but that's what everybody's playing against. If you're going to compete at a very high level, you're going to have to do that. I think they're putting the pieces into place. The one thing, and you kind of said it right there at the end, the traveling from Boston to California is tough. And I could have gone either way on that one. I just felt like Stanford's not quite ready for prime time on this one.
That's fine. That's completely understandable.
That was my logic. I could have gone either way. I just feel like Stanford is still another year away from having all the building blocks back in place.
All right. Well, we'll do the 4 NFL games here in a moment. I would say some exciting news. September 16th, just around the corner. That Winner Win will be out. It's my 3rd book of the 4-part series. If you've read the first 2, the name Fred Blatchford may sound familiar because Fred has a little part in each one of my books. It's just that's what you do for good friends. He helped put up Miles for a little while when Miles was in spring training in the first one. And the second one, there's a mention of Fred. And the third one, he'll be at the 2032 Republican Convention in Atlanta, Georgia. And I don't even believe the 2032 Republican Convention, the city has been chosen. I just made it where it would be Atlanta because Georgia has become a swing state. And I was talking with Tara, I was saying, Fred's read some of the first 2 books, but he's not going to read it from front end. And he says he doesn't like the Yankees. But she says, well, you be sure to let him know they cannot use that as an excuse this time because there's really not hardly anything about the Yankees except him mentioning that he played, baseball for the Yankees. And I said, you know what? I've got him on my show. I'll just put him on the spot where that book comes out on the 16th. We're trying to get a #1 bestseller again. Fred, and I said, Fred's got plenty of money. Fred can jump on Amazon and buy 10 copies. He's got 9 friends that I can sign books for and golfing buddies he can give to. And he can say, look, I don't know if this is any good, but a buddy of mine wrote this. And you might want to look at page 272, like the mention of Fred Blatchford. So,
well, I do derive a ton of pleasure on tweaking you about how much I hate the Ohio State Buckeyes and 2, about how much the Yankees was in that first book. But damn good and well on September 16th, I'm going to buy the book. But I do love tweaking you just to get your reaction. But those things have been great. It's been super to follow it. and following the whole progress. I mean, obviously, I don't know any writers, and so just to listen to you and see what you've posted about the process, and not even talking about when that becomes a movie series. It's been fascinating to watch, and so I'm sure
No,
number three will be cool,
you're kind.
especially
Danny
since you
Art,
had somebody
remember.
as dynamic as a guy, character like me.
There, Danny Arp, who's a member of our panel, said on when I announced that the book's coming out, said on my Facebook, like he goes, in ninth grade, I didn't even realize you could even write. And I started to respond back, man, in ninth grade, I couldn't read or write, So it's like,
Yeah, we need
it's
to, we probably need to get Chat GBT off your computer, see if you've just said, hey, here's an idea, guy, and then the Chat GBT wrote the damn thing.
that would be well, what a friend suggested. It's not a terrible suggestion actually. When you go back to 6 weeks this summer, which has Miles playing for the Yankees, come out with a 6 weeks this summer for every Major League Baseball team. So this is the 6 weeks this summer, the Cincinnati Reds version. 6 weeks this summer, just
That's
make
right.
Miles like a Red, and where he was a Yankee and all those. And I go like, hey, that's really not bad. I bet Chat GPT could do something in a hurry, with that. So our Jay Barton, who and produces a show, and he's does a lot of shipping books and things for me, and just deliveries. He's just great. He does a lot of orders. Just a great kid. We went out on the night that Fall and Recover came out. It debuted. So maybe Jake and I can do that
That's a
next
good luck thing.
Tuesday.
It's superstition. You got to go. You got to go out to dinner.
Yeah, I like that. And I
Don't
am.
tempt it.
I am a superstitious person. Are you a superstitious person? Okay. Yeah. Um, where before we do the four NFL games, where is a place that you want to go that you haven't gone, you haven't visited? What's still left on that bucket
Oh,
list of
wow.
traveling? Because you've been so many
Yeah.
places.
Well, that's a great question. I've never been to Paris. Um,
Okay.
I hadn't been to Rome. That was on my list, but I did my annual international bike tour and went into Rome, flew into Rome, and then spent a few days there before we went down to Bari and Puglia to do the actual biking part of it. But that's on there. It's funny. I was watching social media. I think it was this morning, and there's a place I want to go diving. It's in Iceland, of all places, where you can actually dive and touch two continents at the same time, the United States or North American continent and the European continent at the same time at about 30 foot. The challenge is the water temp is like 38 degrees. So you have to have a dry suit on, which I am dry suit certified, but that's on the list to go there. And then I was shark diving last Sunday, and there was a guy on the boat, and he had some pictures that he had taken of some great whites that he took in Galapagos. And that's on my list to do it as well, is to go there. And I said, because we were diving with sharks, lemons and a bull and a tiger. But boy, when you get in the water and there's a great white, that's a whole different feel. I need to get my dive computer to have my heart rate so I can see what my heart rate is, that kind of thing. But those would be on the list. But I've never been to Paris either.
I kissed a beautiful girl in Paris one time in front of the Eiffel Tower. She set up her
There you
camera to
go.
have a little delay and
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think she surprised me. It was my wife. I want to say that when it was not some like stranger or anything. But yeah, I want you to get to Paris for sure, and I can see that. But that intrigues
Well,
me about the diving, and that intrigues me.
I'm going to try to do it next year because, I ride a Trek bike and I've been associated with Trek for a really, really long time. And the Tour de France obviously comes in, at the end of it there.
Mhm.
And I was going to try to go this year, but just couldn't work it out. But Trek has a package that you can get where you can actually be in downtown Paris when the tour comes in on the final day. And so that'll probably be how I do it, is go there for a few days and just be there when the tour comes in.
Okay. We have about 4 minutes and change.
Yep.
And we'll say at the end of the show, we'll roll the rest of the panel's picks, and you'll get to
Okay.
see all of them. I've chosen three college games: Ohio plus 32, Notre Dame minus 6.5, and Stanford plus 10.5. Fred went with Clemson minus 4, Georgia minus 5, Southern Cal minus 21. Ohio State minus 32, Notre Dame minus 6.5, and Boston College minus 10.5. I'll go ahead and get my only NFL play out of the way. It's going to be the New Orleans Saints plus 6.5 against the 49ers, a team. I need the 49ers to win that division badly, but I'm going to go with the Saints there. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm selecting one soccer game for the weekend. I'm hoping my Bayern Munich team gets back on track. But they're going to have to win this to make this a winner. They got to win by 3 goals or more because they're favored by 2.5 goals, which is a lot in soccer against, it looks like Hamburger, but that's Hamburg, Germany, folks. I've been there as well. It's a beautiful place. So that's against Hamburger SV. Let's get Fred. He gave us the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's his 5-star against the Seahawks. Let's move. You're opposite of me. You're going with the 49ers. I saw the 49ers struggle against the Seahawks and win, and I saw how well the Saints competed against the Cardinals. And I think they'll do that for like 3 or 4 weeks this year before they completely drop off. I think at home, I think it might be hard for the 49ers to win by a touchdown or more. You think they get that done, though?
I do. I think we could get 11 of your listeners out there in your audience and beat the Saints.
They do have my Buckeye Chris Olave on offense. They don't have Kamara.
They need way more Buckeyes on that team to have any chance. They got no chance.
Fair enough. The marquee game of the weekend is not one of the primetime games. It's actually the late afternoon game. It's the rematch of the Super Bowl. And it's going to be in Kansas City between the Eagles and the Chiefs. This side would be just exceptional, maybe as good as the Ravens and the Bills the other night. Eagles favored by 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's a toss-up. I thought the Eagles looked good against Dallas, but I'm not a big Dallas Cowboy fan. I didn't think they looked very good playing against Dallas. I think the Chiefs have got – very often you don't see the Chiefs have been in a statement game in probably 6 or 7 years. They do not want to start off 0-2 and lose to the Eagles at home. I think they pull that out, and the point spread is basically a pick 'em. So I think they win that game.
Okay. The Falcons, who lost to your Buccaneers in a game that went back and forth late there, now taking on the Vikings. And Minnesota was very impressive in the second half against the Bears, kind of wore down that Bears defense in the fourth quarter with 21 unanswered points. Yeah. You like the Falcons here to play competitive, though, up in Minnesota. Minnesota will have one less day of rest and recovery. The spread, though, is 5. So, but you may think the Vikings win, but the Falcons play them competitively.
Yeah, the Vikings played one good quarter, obviously the fourth quarter, and they looked really good. You know, JJ had a big quarter. I thought the Falcons looked really good. I thought the Falcons-Bucks game was 2 really good football teams playing each other. I think they go up and cover it. I think they get them.
Okay. All right. Well, that wraps up the picks. I'm going to save just a little bit of time so Jake can scroll all the picks. Everybody, I will say that Fred's 2-0 and 5 stars. Pay attention to that Steelers play. It's Steelers -3. That's his 5-star this week. My 5-star was Stanford plus 10.5. I'm 1-1. Kevin's 1-1. His 5 stars. Boston College minus 10.5. One of us will be right. Danny's 5 stars. Clemson -4. He's 1-1. Stormy's 2-0. He's got Ohio State minus 32 as his 5-star. And John is 1-1. His 5 stars. Georgia Tech +4. I want to thank Fred Blatchford for joining me today.
As always.
And I want to thank Jake. We'll roll everybody's picks as we leave right here on Talking with Tony. We'll see you next time right here on Talking with Tony.